Hello everyone, I hope you were all staying well and healthy during this time. During my time in quarantine, I got around to watching Demon Slayer, a very popular anime that has been on my personal anime watch list for quite some time now. And I'm excited to talk about it, so here we go. The pacing is only slightly rough for me. In the beginning, it's a little repetitive. Tanjiro goes to a place, he fights a demon, and kills it. And then repeat. This happens a few times and it was getting a little exhausting. Not just for Tanjiro, but I'm sure for the viewer as well. It happens a few times until Tanjiro meets up with Zenitsu and Inosuke. However, looking back on the season as a whole, I can see that every fight had a purpose. Tanjiro grows from every one of those fights, whether he learns a new technique or learns something about demons, etc. I haven't read the manga, so I don't know what's coming, but I feel like everything I've seen in Season 1 has just been a prologue. The climactic fight near the end with Rui shows that Tanjiro still has a long way to go as a demon slayer, because Tomioka, God I hope I pronounced that right, shows up and slays the demon with ease. So much ease that it felt a little vindictive in my opinion. I love Tanjiro as the protagonist. I loved him from the moment I met him. The way he interacts with the members of his family and the people he meets in town shows you that he's just a really nice guy. And as the series goes on, you'll find yourself thinking, oh my god, this boy is a cinnamon roll who is too precious for this world. His origin is a little generic and predictable. When I saw how sweet and cute his family was in the first episode, my immediate thought was, they are so dead. Sorry, Tanjiro. But the way his family is shown in the first episode feels so kind and warm and genuine that I still feel terrible about their deaths. It's not like Batman's parents where they feel like props to inspire the hero's quest. They felt like a real family. Even after the tragedy, Tanjiro still shows that he is the best character. And one of the things that reflect that is how he treats the demons with humanity. Even after he slays them, he tries to comfort them as they're passing, even praying for them, because he knows that they used to be people. There's even this one example where a demon knows it's going to die, and it just embraces death. And when Tanjiro sees this, he does a special technique with his sword to make the death as peaceful as possible. And that's just another thing that shows you what kind of person he is, and really makes me appreciate his character. I can't express how much I love this show's portrayal of demons. The majority of the demons Tanjiro fights have an amazing way of making you care about them. So when they die, you honestly wish things could have gone another way, because they used to be humans and dealt with serious problems that still haunt them even though they've become demons. However, the show is very smart and never tries to excuse the demons' actions. They are still monsters who have killed a vast amount of innocent people. This sympathy that we the audience feel, coupled with Tanjiro's compassion for them in their final moments, helps us better understand Tanjiro as a person. There are many other demon slayers in this show who just see their job as killing monsters and getting paid a whole lot of money for it. A lot of them have developed this mercenary mentality. And this can be seen when some random demon slayer comes across Rui in the forest thinking that he'll get an easy kill and will help boost his status. The reason Tanjiro sees the demons differently is because of Nezuko. His sister was turned into a demon. He has to see the humanity in demons, because if he sees demons as anything less than people, he'll in turn be denying Nezuko of the same thing. To sum up my thoughts on Tanjiro, I think he's one of the better shonen protagonists that we've seen lately. Moving on from Tanjiro, I really like Zenitsu. I love the way he's voice acted, and I love the way he's animated. The Japanese voice actor playing him legit sounds like he's on the verge of having a complete crying fit, which works well because that's most likely what his character is doing. From what I've heard, there are people who are annoyed with this character, particularly because of how much of a coward he is, or they see him as a womanizer. He has this thing where he flirts with every cute girl he meets, a trait that is common with at least one character in a shonen property like this. But I feel like Zenitsu is pretty tamed in comparison to other characters who fit that role, like Jiraiya or Mineta. I personally wasn't annoyed by it. I also thought his illogical way of thinking was funny and really entertaining. Like that scene where we first see him fall asleep and kill that demon and then wake up, and he thought it was the kid who saved him. And then after that, he's just desperate for that kid to come with him because he thinks he's really strong. During that second time where he falls asleep and fights that spider demon, when he woke up from it, I honestly thought he was gonna think that it was the bird who saved him, his little sparrow friend. I thought that would have been hilarious, but they didn't go there. I really like the idea that he's practiced the same fighting technique, Thunderclap and Flash, so many times that he can do it in his sleep. Which I mean literally, because he's too scared to actually fight when he's conscious. It's an interesting idea, and I can't wait to see where the series goes with it. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to the third member of this show's main trio, and that's Inosuke, the guy with the pig head. Inosuke is my favorite character. He kind of acts like Bakugo from My Hero Academia if Bakugo was a goofy dumbass who had no filter. My favorite moment from him is during the mountain arc, where he sees Tanjiro save one of the people who's being controlled with spider threads by throwing her into a tree. And Inosuke just goes, "What? I want to do that too!" And then he starts running, flailing his arms in the air and laughing like a maniac. I really like how his pig head can be menacing but silly at the same time. It goes to show just how great of a design that is. I also love how much you can tell about his character without the show actually telling us. He grew up in the wilderness, raised by wild boars. Tanjiro and Zenitsu are his only friends. He thrives on compliments and feeling like a part of a team because he's never had that before. I love how his feelings are represented by these puffballs. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to represent that fuzzy feeling he's getting inside. Another one of my favorite moments is when Tanjiro frees Inosuke from the spider threads. And Tanjiro says some stuff like, "Let's work together. We can beat him together." Just your typical shonen speech about teamwork. And Inosuke replies with, "Hey, quit making me feel more giddy than I already am." I love how much he acts like an animal. He constantly tries to act like the alpha male of the group. He tries to start fights with Tanjiro by stealing his food and claiming the first bed. But Tanjiro lets him behave that way because he knows that Inosuke doesn't know any better, and because Inosuke ultimately isn't really hurting anyone. I also really love the reoccurring joke where Inosuke says Tanjiro's name wrong. It's so simple, but something about his execution makes me laugh. Now that I've talked about the show's main trio, I want to talk about their dynamic. I love how none of them really meet eye to eye on a lot of stuff, like violence. Like for Tanjiro, he never resorts to violence up to a certain point. Then he'll take necessary action. For Inosuke, he leads with violence, usually taking the violent approach, probably because he feels like any problem he encounters can be solved by punching it a whole lot. And we all know Zenitsu's too scared to actually fight anything. It also helps that I've never seen a dynamic quite like this in other shonen titles. There's one other character I have left to talk about. I think Nezuko is interesting. I feel like the only reason she's so popular is because she's cute. But I think it's weird because Nezuko is basically a pet. She's very docile and submissive. I don't know. Is that why people like her? She doesn't really have much of a character because she doesn't talk. She has a bamboo gag in her mouth for the majority of the show. I will say this. The bit where she's running and then shrinks to dodge the sword blade was so damn adorable. The animation in this show is top tier. The designs on the characters are unique, but on top of that, the fight scenes are a spectacle. So many of the shots look like living paintings. I'm especially a fan of the water effects, but also the animation they use for the comedic moments is incredibly unique. I don't think I've ever seen over-the-top anime expressions quite like that before. I'm also a fan of how ambitious the character designs are. The designs are filled with so much detail. Like Tanjiro wears a black and green checkered coat. It could have just been a regular green coat. And Nezuko's pink kimono has these lines all over it. Zenitsu's outfit is covered in these triangles, and Inosuke's swords have divots in them. All of these are stylistic choices that actually make it harder to animate. It would have been a lot easier if the animators took out those details and made their outfits like one color, or just gave Inosuke regular, smooth swords. You have to appreciate the effort put into that type of animation. I honestly thought that animating it that way was going to be a little visually overwhelming, but I was wrong. All of the details and all the effort put in by the animators give this show a very unique aesthetic. There are times where the animation switches to 3D character models of our characters. 3D animation has a reputation in anime of looking like trash. And in this show, when it switches to 3D animation, it is just the tiniest bit jarring, but I think the way it's done in this show is really smart. When used on our characters, it's usually a wide shot of them walking, and we're watching them from a distance. The animators are smart enough to not get too close. Other uses for 3D animation are the environment. Some places I couldn't even tell were 3D. And places that I could tell were 3D, like the rotating house, I thought were done very well. Because it would have been impossible to animate that rotating house by hand. Also in this show, when the demons are exposed to sunlight, it kills them. So most of the fight scenes that involve demons take place at night. So that means that most of the fight locations have darker color palettes. This gives us a beautiful contrast with our brightly colored characters and their flashy attacks. I also love how the fighting is represented. In reality, the demon slayers aren't doing more than swinging swords. They're only enhancing their strength and stamina using a certain breathing technique. The effects are more of a visual representation of their swords. Tanjiro's sword movements are smooth and flow like water, while Zenitsu's attacks are fast like lightning, and Inosuke's are violent and savage like you're fighting a wild animal. That brings me to something I want to talk about. Episode 19 and the fight between Tanjiro and Rui. This is what first really put this anime on my radar, because the anime was trending on Twitter when episode 19 dropped. That episode elevated this series into a true work of art. I recently rewatched that episode, and oh my god, it's incredible. The music stuck with me. And that doesn't usually happen to me because I'm usually too dense to notice something like music on a first or second viewing. I don't want to give too much away about the fight, but it's incredible. That's about all I have to say. If you're a fan of anime and you need something to watch while you're in quarantine, I suggest you give this a watch. You won't be disappointed. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe and all that good stuff. And I will see you guys in the next one.